Let's get the conversation started. Joining me on the program tonight for us to look at the Constitution Review Amendment, a call for a new constitution. Should we alter the one we have, or should we bet a brand new constitution for the Nigerian state? I have joining me via Zoom on the program tonight from Benin City. I have a comrade Bobby Ewusa Obayuwana. Comrade Ewusa Obayuwana is a civil rights activist here based in Benin. Good evening, comrade. Good to have you join me on the program.
Good evening, Mr. Rondores Osifo. Good evening, Nigerians. I'm happy to be here this evening.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's get the conversation started. A lot of persons, both constitutional lawyers, civil rights activists just like you, and other well-meaning Nigerians have been saying that what we have today as the Holy Book of Nigeria, which is the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, does not reflect what it should be. First and foremost, before you answer that question, let's get a background of what really is a constitution. What does it entail?
The Constitution, as defined by Sir Edward Coke and Lumpula, these are universal lawyers in the field of constitutional law and jurisprudence, is defined as the fundamental laws and principles that help to govern a state, country, nation state, or a particular group of people, either through a written document or through an unwritten document. So the Constitution remains the cosmos morans with which the activities of governance, of citizenship participation in governance, and holistically with which the society operates. All nations of the world have one form of constitution that they use to regulate the actions and inactions of both governance or government of the day, as well as part of what the citizenry in this respective society. So the Constitution, like you rightly put it, is the Holy Bible that reflects the rules, fundamental laws, principles that help to guide and shape the way society is established, the way governance and the superstructure, as well as the apparatus of state function, as well as the behaviors, actions, inactions, and generally the activities of people living in such human societies are couched within. That is the definition of the Constitution.
Okay, thank you for giving us a brief introduction of what the Holy Book or the Holy Bible of Nigeria, known as the Constitution, precisely the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Now, let's take a brief history through the constitutions we've had in Nigeria and how they've reflected or they've not reflected the wishes and the will of the people. There's been the Matheson Constitution during the colonial era or before the colonial era, Richard Constitution, Clifford Constitution, and name them as many as they were before we had the 1979 Constitution, which metamorphosed into another one before the 1999 Constitution as amended. Would you really say that these other constitutions before the colonial era were not reflecting the realities of what the Nigerian state should be? We know by that period it was some kind of a dictatorial or military regime which was not democratically enshrined. Those other constitutions, could you really say they were not a reflection of the reality of Nigeria today?
Of course, to a large extent.
Okay.
They were not really reflective. Those constitutions by Sir Hodge Clifford of 1922, which introduced the famous elective principle that gave room for Nigerians to begin to formally vote in the first time in the annals of politics in their country, now culminated into the Arthur Richards Constitution of 1946, which brought about regionalism in Nigeria, and Nigeria as a nation was administered based on regional affairs. That later took us into what the John Macarthur Constitution of 1951, which further consolidated regionalism and made the colonialists control majority of our resources and made most of our Nigerian representatives backbenchers within the chambers. That now took us to what the 1954 Constitution of Polyvalidity, which brought about federalism in paper, where Nigerians could be given the opportunity to practice federalism, where both regional and central governance were incorporated into the custom morals, which is the only Bible that governs Nigeria, that is the Constitution. That now gave birth to what the James Robertson Commission that unveiled the plans to formally hand over power to Nigerians for the first time, where we had a Governor General that was a ceremonial president that was never duly elected by Nigerians, the person of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in 1960. However, prior to this time, Nigeria was a political child of circumstance, which was bettered as a result of colonial affiliation with themselves. Talking about the Sir Lord Frederick Lugard and his wife, Flora Shaw, coming together to what name Nigeria, and Sir Frederick Lugard actually named Nigeria after the wife. So you see that that gave birth to what the amalgamation of 1906, where the southern colony of Lagos was infused into the colony of Nigeria, which later metamorphosed into the amalgam or the amalgamation of the 1914 between the 1914 amalgamation of what northern and southern protectorate. So historically, down to even the 1979 Independence Constitution, down to the 1983 Constitution, down to the 1999 Constitution, we have had one form of legislative and legal effect or the other that have not really generally reflected the interest of Nigerians. But I can tell you for free that the difference just now between our federal constitution of 1999 and those other constitutions prior to our independence, prior to Nigeria being a republic in 1963, and from 1963 upward to 21st century governance and constitutionality matters in Nigeria. The difference is those other constitutions were used to oppress Nigerians that colonially, while this current constitution is expressly and deliberately couched to serve the needs of the elite and not the generality of Nigerians. And I make bold to say this with all sense of responsibility and humility, because Nigerians just now have been hearing of constitutionalism before this time. Nigerians just now have been hearing a lot about constitutional reform. But the big question that is bugging the mind of average Nigerians in the street, in the rallies, in the trenches, in the suburbs, in the hinterland, in the villages, in the communities, and even in the cities nowadays is to what extent as this constitution or this constitutional reform represent the interest of the Honorable Poloi of the society, of the Aminu Talakawa of the society, of the masses, as well as the interest of the collateral, for which democracy and federalism stands for. All we hear is that they are carrying out one constitutional reform or the other without putting into due consideration the most important democratic variable in any state democracy, which is what? The interest of the people. Because government is defined according to Abraham Lincoln. Democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, for which constitution is established to guide them, to lead to prosperity in Nigeria. But what we are seeing is the constitution is rather in practicality more favorable to the elite and in more reality, detrimental towards the democratic needs, yearnings, wants, dreams, desires, and aspirations of the majority of the good people of Nigeria. Therefore, as a civil society activist who belongs to the court of public opinion, and a proud representative of fulfilling of level, a proud representative of Nigeria, because the thing that has ever happened to my life is to be a Nigerian. The best thing that has ever happened to my life is to be an Edoman. And the best thing that has ever happened to my life is to be a social democrat. We can't help but continue to muster the courage that there is hope of better days. But a lot of Nigerians, from what is going on, have come to terms to say that we no longer have power, but what we now have is rather a cataclysmic, retrogressive, unproductive, renewed change that has been bedeviled and forced on Nigeria. We can't help but register our displeasure. We that belong to the court of public opinion, and this constitution should have the minimum urgency reflect the Nigerians. We need a constitution that can guarantee security for the life and property of Nigeria. If security and its total reality are not in theories, we need a constitution that can guarantee the safety of our voting and elections. We don't want a constitution where, at the end of the day, elections will be conducted, they will tell the active party. It's okay. We should not take that.
Okay, Comrade Bobby, you've been saying a whole lot, but we'll have to go on a short break now so you can take a glass of water, because I can see the spirit at which you've been talking to us. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back. Just stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. Still on the program Road to 2027, reaching you live on independent television. And we've been taking a critical look at the constitutional amendment. We are examining the issues ahead. Do we need a new constitution, or we need to alter what we have? Before we went on the break, my guest was actually talking about the constitutions before now, during the colonial era, the Mafasen Constitution, the Richard Constitution, the Clifford Constitution, which eventually culminated into a democratic constitution before we have what we have now, which is the 1999 Constitution as amended. I still have my guest who's joining me via Zoom on the program, Comrade Bobby Obayiwana. Comrade Bobby Obayiwana is a civil rights activist. He's my guest on the program. So, Comrade, let me come back to you again. Before we went on the break, you've said so much about the Mafasen, the Clifford, the Richards Constitution. Now, let's look at the post those constitutions. After the constitutions, we have the 1979, if my memory serves me right now, a constitution before we went into some of the military era, the dictatorship, military taking power before 1998. They sat down to return power to a democratically elected government. That was when they started drafting what we have today as the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now let's look at the post Richard Clifford and Mafasen Constitution and the Littleton Constitution as well. Do you think that what we have today reflects the wish of the people? The preamble of the Constitution says, "We the people of Nigeria." A lot of persons have argued in so many quarters that that part of the Constitution should be removed, that there was never a time we the people of Nigeria sat down and we agreed on that Constitution. Are you in that school of thought that says, that part that says we the people, that's at the preamble of the Constitution? Maybe while we continue the conversation, we'll start delving into some sections of the Constitution, rights and all that. Do you agree with the proponent of we the people of Nigeria?
In a veracity of fact and the practical and total reality of truth, Nigerians were never consulted.
Okay.
And part of is also stemming from the genealogy of the fact that even in 1914, when the northern and southern protectorate of this great nation, modern Nigeria, was vested under the colonialist, chauvinistic, and imperialistic intent of Sir Frederick Lord Lugard, both the southern protectorate and the northern amalgamation took place. So that is why a lot of persons have gone to town to say that that constitutional process does not really reflect the true tenets of democracy. However, I do not entirely agree that the entire constitution should be scrapped, because there are still some portions of there are still some relevant sections of the constitution rather that are still reflective of the tenets of democracy. What Nigerians are saying is that these constitutional reforms that they have been carrying out from yesteryear, right from post-independence era, from the 1979 constitution
All right.
Thank you.
Comrade, let's now delve into the Constitution proper. Section 14.
Okay.
Section 14 of the same Constitution we are using today, sub 1. Let me read it out so we try to make sense. Let's decipher what Section 14 says. It says the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principle and tenets of democracy and social justice. Sub 2. It is hereby accordingly declared that A. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government through their constitution derives all the powers and authority. B. That the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And C. The participation by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provision of this constitution. Subsection 3 goes ahead to say that the composition of the government of the federation or any of its agencies and the conduct of the affairs shall be carried out in such a manner as it reflects federal character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity and also to command national loyalty, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic and other sectional groups in any government or any other of its agencies. Let's break down Section 14 of the Constitution, because we're looking at the Constitution, the review or the clamor for a new Constitution. The security, the welfare of the people, which is always at the lips of every Nigerian. Almost every Nigerian knows Section 14, subsection 2B, security and welfare of the people. Do you feel that the Constitution we are running today prioritizes the security and the welfare of the people of Nigeria?
For me, one of the most challenging issues that we have in Nigeria now is insecurity, and I stand to be corrected.
Okay. But the Constitution, the Constitution already made provision for the security and the welfare of the people.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Hello?
I can hear you clearly.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Can you hear me?
All right, we'll go on a short break on the program. We'll join my guest again on the
hear me?
program, saying we're having some challenges. Let's take. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Still on the program, Road to 2027, reaching you live on independent television. We are actually making sense out of the clamor, the call for the constitution review of Nigeria. It seemed like the 1999 constitution that the country has been running for the past 25 years, or 25 years now as the case may be, it seemed not to be inclusive of the people. So the people are clamoring for a new constitution or the constitutional amendment that it seems that the people are not carried along with what the constitution, the tenet of the constitution. So that's what we're looking at on the program this evening. I still have my guest who is joining me via Zoom on the program, activist and right activist, Comrade Bobby Obayuana. So Comrade, we were trying to break down Section 14, sub 2, A, B, and C, basically, especially the C part, the B part, which says the security and the welfare of the people shall be the sole purpose of government. But a lot of persons have argued in different quarters that the government is not even living up to the expectation of that section of the Constitution. What is your take on that?
The reality of what we see in Nigeria currently is that the most worrisome issue bothering the mind and the life of the good people of Nigeria currently is the issue of the high state of insecurity, ravaging the entire country. And that is why government at all levels must rise up to the occasion. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Must rise up to the occasion. Government at all levels must rise up to the occasion to face this issue of insecurity. Because the primary purpose of governance in any state democracy, one of which Nigeria is not an exception of, or an exception to, is that our and even the local government. But what we are seeing currently in the country is that Nigerians are tired of hearing issues of insecurity, banditry, terrorism, unknown gunmen, Fulani men, ravaging our farms, killing our people, slaughtering our animals, raping the wives of Nigerian men, killing Nigerian youth, wasting our resources, our economic resources, and eating up the policy, which calls for urgent concern. The government at all levels should wake up and face this reality that is bedeviling our security architecture, that is bedeviling the peace and the social cohesion as well as the coexistence of Nigerians in their country. If at all for no reason, you give the excuse of wanting to upscale our return on investment in terms of economic productivity. Give us security. Give us security. We need security in Nigeria. Give us good infrastructure. Employ our youth. Give us a sustainable economy where major sectors like the agricultural sector and even the human resource in the country will not be threatened. Because in a situation where our population is being depleted by insecurity, our resources are being depleted by insecurity through constant bombings, killings, and all forms of inhuman and heinous attacks and crime from these faceless individuals that have refused to give Nigerians peace in their dear country. Then the government of the day should be called to question. You are giving us constitutional reform. We are not seeing practical security architecture in the total reality that we face in Nigeria just now. You are saying that we should be pushing for social inclusion, whereas the outcome of elections do not reflect the interest of the majority of Nigerians. For the past 25 years, we have been going back and forth as a nation. It seems that the previous administration is usually far better than the next administration. When Obasanjo took over in 1999, Obasanjo did his speech and handed over to late Musa Yar'Adua, who happens to be one of the best and most democratic presidents we have ever had in Nigeria. Till today, people still speak of late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, the true democrat of our time in the 20th century of governance and democracy in Nigeria. He handed over to His Excellency Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Although he died, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan took over. And in 2015, the late President Muhammadu Buhari, that the National Assembly said they want to organize, according to them, a special session, which to the Nigerian population, the majority do not really see as better with the reality that we are facing now. Is not the issue bothering Nigeria. You have them to be calling for constitutional reform and organizing a special session for a president, a former president, whom the majority of Nigerians agree that is very while in office and handing over to this current administration now. Now, people are saying that Jonathan's administration was far better than Buhari's administration. And many people are still using the same line of thought to just let Buhari's administration to say, if we are saying that the poor come better pass, so we that belong to the court of public opinion, we are using this medium to humbly appeal to the apparatus of state, our national Nigeria now, people should not bother to be looking for free and fair election again. Because if you contest and you lose under controversial circumstances, the next people will tell you that you should go to court. The judiciary that is supposed to be the last hope of the common man, in practicality and in total reality, has not really reflected that democratic tenet which the constitution also makes provision of. And you talked about security. All these culminate, all these variables culminate into the security, into an effective security apparatus and architecture that Nigeria can benefit from. If the apparatus and the social engineering and machinery of state, not government, through its constitution and through its action, policies, programs, and projects, incorporate the interest of the majority of Nigerians.
Okay.
Currently, in this political struggle, this constitution, in this political struggle, this constitution that many Nigerians, this constitutional reform, many Nigerians seem to be uninterested. If you ask an average man in the street of Southwest, or an average man in the street of Southeast, or an average man in the street of Northwest, North Central, and even in South, they will tell you that they are not even interested.
Okay.
Because the process does not really incorporate these variables that we have said.
Okay, comrade.
Conduct a constitutional reform and pass bills and laws that do not really reflect the interest of the masses.
Okay,
Thank you.
comrade, you know, as an activist that you are, you can actually talk for as long as you can, but at this juncture, I have to interject so that we can begin to start preparing to call it a wrap on the program. Now, one of the political roundup story I took says that the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, has urged Nigerians to ask for accountability and transparency in the course of the Constitution review, as the case may be. Now, in your own thought, as a civil rights activist that you are, you guys are the ones that are always checking and tracking the activities of government, telling them you are doing this right or you're not doing this right. Do you feel accountability is what we need, or transparency is what we need? Or in your own, do we need a constitutional amendment, or we need to birth a brand new constitution where everybody will be inclusive? You've said a whole lot that people are not inclusive in this 1999 constitution as amended. So should we clamor for another constitution, or some clauses of what we have should be amended to capture those areas, those gray areas which you've pointed out? As we begin to wrap up.
Let me put it as cathedral.
Okay.
And succinctly to Nigeria, that is, that there can never be accountability in governance without a transparent political process that gives birth to governance.
Okay.
And secondly, what we need a transparent social mechanism with which incorporates the dreams of Nigerians, the dreams and the hopes of Nigerians. If a constitutional reform is to be carried out, there should be room for public hearing, where representatives of different parts of this country will come to a consensus agreement after agreement and disagreement, after an intellectual romance of thought, to say that this is what we believe will favor Nigerians, the majority of Nigerians. And I may mention that in this show from the beginning, that is, that the civil society arm should be carried along, Nigerian youth should be carried along, Nigerian women representatives should be carried along, our traditional rulers should be carried along, the respective leaders that are close to the people, not political appointees this time that are rubber stamps to their paymasters, so they should be carried along. And they should create an avenue where Nigerians can be asked. There is no town hall meeting. When last did we have a national town hall for youth? When last did we have a national town hall meeting for constitutional review and constitutional reform? So these are issues that are bothering the Nigerian population. And that the only way we can move forward is not to bet a new constitution. I totally disagree with that school of thought. Because we have come this far. We have come this far to start saying that we want to do this far, to say that we want to start from the beginning again. There are some sections in that constitution that should be amended. Number one, if you are doing constitutional reform, there should be room for public hearing.
Okay.
There should be room for public debate.
Yeah.
There should be room for regular town hall meetings.
Okay.
A representative of each of the geopolitical zones should be in this forum where the interests of Nigerians will be aired live on TV, on radio, on social media, and every other form of both traditional and conventional mass media. That is how to think about transparency. It is only when these variables are put together that we can start talking about accountability in governance. That is why they consistently exclude and seclude Nigerians from this constitutional reform. What they do is that they constitute themselves in the hallowed chamber, bring one bill, read one theory, pass one law, and at the end of the day, they use it to what? Govern Nigeria without incorporating these affirmation variables into the thrust of conversation that should lead to what? Both transparency and accountability in governance. So, some parts of our constitution should be amended and not entirely scrapped. Not the entire constitution should not be scrapped. We need constitutional reform to our electioneering process.
Okay.
A constitutional reform that can guarantee security irrespective of the political party.
All right.
A constitutional reform that can guarantee the employment of Nigerians, and a constitutional reform that can guarantee holistically and most importantly prosperity of all Nigerians.
All right, you've said a lot, but we have in less than 2 minutes to go. Quickly, what will be your message to the Nigerian people who are the constitution themselves? Should they be a part of this process? If they should, what will be your message to them in the course of this constitutional amendment in the next 2 minutes before we call it a wrap?
My message to the Nigerian people, as put Santa Simplistica, very simple that is that they should consistently close mark their leaders, all the House of Assembly members, House of Representative members, senators, governors, should be consistently checkmated by Nigeria. And how do you do that? There is nowhere in the constitution that says that anybody that gets elected must do 8 years. If somebody does not perform in the first 4 years, vote that person out to the next election. Don't wait for this to go this bad before you start reacting. Nigerians should be proactive enough to sense a government or a machinery of state that is willing to work for them. And going into 2027, Nigerians should be very, 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 very strategic to know that the decision they take can either make or mar our democracy. And they should know that the collective democratic destiny of this great nation rests in our hands, rests in our PVCs, and rests in the transparent body, INEC. And Nigerians should also learn to begin to hold our electoral institutions accountable if elections are held under controversial circumstances which in most times do not reflect the interest of the majority of Nigeria. And generally, Nigeria should continue to sue for peace. The best thing that has ever happened to us is that we have been a peaceful nation. One of the most peaceful nations on Mother Earth is Nigeria. We should continue to employ all diplomatic, persuasive, and democratic means to ensure that the interest of Nigeria through security, through economic prosperity, through employment of our citizenry, through infrastructural development, and through a drive and a collective responsibility geared towards prosperity for all Nigerians should be ensured going forward. If Nigeria go better, all of us must play our part, because the last time I checked, both should be not one man work. Nigeria belongs to all of us.
Comrade Bobby Ewosa Obayuwana, I want to thank you for your time, for joining us on the program tonight, reviewing the constitutional, looking at the constitutional amendment, examining the issue. We thank you for your time. We hope when we call upon you again for issues like this, you make yourself available to always be with us.
Thank you very much. I am available for more. This is an issue of Nigeria.
All right.
Anytime.
All right, thank you very much. That's the size of our package on the program tonight, Road to 2027, brought to you live from Independent Television. So much has been said about the Constitution review and amendment. We look forward to see what happens as it goes towards the stages that you have to follow before that process becomes a reality. On behalf of my entire crew here, I want to thank you for being a part of the program tonight. I am Lawrence Osifo. See you again, and bye for now.